My name is Jennifer Kronk from the Assist Learning Podcast. I'm a proud member of the Education Podcast Network, just like the show you're listening to right now. The opinions expressed are those of the individual hosts. Make sure you check out all the other great podcasts at edupodcastnetwork.com and get ready because the learning begins in 3, 2, 1.
Coming up in this episode of the House of EdTech podcast, I've got an EdTech thought, and we're going to be talking about Amazon Artificial Intelligence. That's right, you know her name. I've got a great EdTech recommendation, because we're going to talk about replacing Voxer. That's right, replacing Voxer. We've got the House of EdTech VIP, and returning to the program, my dad, John Nesi. Welcome to the House of EdTech podcast. I am your host, Chris Nesi. The House of EdTech explores how technology is changing the way teachers teach and the impact that technology is having in education. I discuss technology that is changing our classrooms and schools, and I share tools and tips that you can hear today and use tomorrow. You're going to hear the stories of teachers, leaders, and creators just like you. The purpose? Whether you use it or not, technology is changing the way you teach and how your students learn. Hey, howdy, hey. Welcome back to the House of EdTech. What's going on, everybody? This is episode 108 of the podcast. My name is Chris Nesi, and I'm very excited to be here with this awesome podcast that I've been doing for going to be 5 years at the end of 2018. This is going to be a very fun episode because I've got a lot of things that I want to share and talk about, starting first with the conversation I had with my dad, John Nesi. If you recall, or if you are new to the program, he most recently appeared for the first time in episode 100 back at the end of 2017. And I'm very excited to bring my dad back for another fantastic conversation around education, block scheduling, technology, and what he's doing in his school and as a high school math teacher. My EdTech thought, you're going to want to, this is big. For those of you that are in the Facebook group and a podcasting group of educators that I'm with on Voxer, my major announcement is coming up here inside of the EdTech thought. And I guess what I'm really excited about is something I'm going to get to in the EdTech recommendation, and we're going to talk about replacing Voxer. Now, you listening right now, you might be very familiar with Voxer, or maybe you don't use it, but you've heard of it, and you've been considering it, or maybe you're new to Voxer, or you are a Voxer veteran. But I think what I'm going to share for the EdTech recommendation might just blow you away. So if this was radio, that would be a teaser, but, this isn't radio. This is a podcast. Thank you for listening. If this is your first episode, hopefully you will get some value out of what you hear, and I will be worth your subscribe, clicking, physical action. So obviously that's the goal. Get you to subscribe, stay subscribed, and enjoy everything that we're doing here on the podcast. Speaking of which, the Facebook group is blowing up with lots of people discovering it and getting exposure to the podcast. So I want to take a time to say thank you if you are new to the Facebook group. I would certainly go through the names, but this week alone, there have been like 25 new people who have come into the House of EdTech Facebook group. So if you'd like to be a part of the conversation over on Facebook, you can go to chrisnesi.com/Facebook, and I will be happy to add you to the conversation. And there are some great conversations forming, some relationships that are forming, and it's just really exciting to see that, the podcast is partly to blame. Well, if I say blame, that sounds bad. But, the podcast is responsible for building this community. So go over and check that out. I don't have a lot of banter here at the top of the episode, so why don't we just head over to this episode's House of EdTech Thought. I would insert a drum roll, but for some reason, after 4+ years, I still don't have an effective drumroll sound effect. So this episode's EdTech thought is called the Amazon Skill Announcement. First, for those of you that have an Amazon artificial intelligence device somewhere in your proximity, you're welcome, because I'm going to spell out her name, Alexa, and you could just imagine that wherever you hear that I'm saying her name. So trying not to set off your device. You're welcome. So my big announcement. I am excited to announce that I have developed and I have released an Amazon Alexa skill for the House of EdTech. This is, for all intents and purposes, a new podcast exclusive to the Amazon platform. If you don't have an Amazon device, I am sorry, but I am currently working on another distribution option to accommodate all users. I'm actually here in the House of EdTech. I am a mixed artificial intelligence house. We have Google Home here, and I do have an Amazon Echo Dot sitting here on my desk. So one of the other reasons I'm not going to say her name is because then mine is going to go off, and I don't want that to happen right now. But anyway, I'm calling this the House of EdTech 60 Sec Rec. In 60 seconds, you will get a new EdTech recommendation 5 days per week, Monday through Friday, and I may also include other bite-sized nuggets of EdTech awesomeness too. This skill is available as part of your Flash Briefings function, and you can enable it from your mobile device via the Alexa app on your phone or your tablet, or you can visit chrisnesi.com/insert her name, Alexa. As I sit here recording this episode of the House of EdTech, right now, if you go and add the skill to your Flash Briefings, you are going to be able to hear the pilot episode, which is the pilot briefing. And this is available now, and new content will start to publish beginning on April 30th, 2018. If you're listening to this after April 30th, all you need to do is go and enable the skill, and you will be able to jump right in. Now, the way I have it set up, you will always be able to listen to the 5 most recent briefings. And I've also, here on the technical side of things, I'm saying 60-second recommendation. The actual audio file that's getting published to the Amazon platform is a 60-second file. So at most, if you get backlogged or you're listening to them in all at once, it'll only take up 5 minutes of your time. And you being familiar with your Amazon device, you know how to skip ahead and go backwards, but you'll always be able to access the 5 most recent Flash Briefings on the Amazon platform. Now, after you hear some of these, please let me know what you think. If you have an idea for other content that you'd like me to get out to you in this way, please go to chrisnesi.com/feedback and let me know. That's how we grow and we learn together. And one last thing, if you have something that you would like to recommend at any time, please send me a 30 to 45 second audio clip, and I would be happy to feature you in one of these House of EdTech 60 Sec Rec skill episodes. So again, all you would need to do is go out to chrisnesi.com/feedback, and there are a number of ways that you can get that audio to me. So I hope you enjoy the Amazon skill for the House of EdTech. Please let me know, on Twitter if you add it. I want to know that it's working, it's effective, and that it's something worth doing. The reason I'm doing it is because I have heard other podcasters creating their Flash Briefing skills, and I want to see if I could do it. So it really wasn't that hard. I'm sure in a future episode, I will explain how that works. And really what I'm thinking is, after I played with it, I think I'll be able to come up with a way to use this as a teacher. And as a teacher, it could be very valuable to be able to get out very short audio content to your students' homes and make it a part of their Flash Briefing, or if I'm able to get it onto other platforms, there is some value here. But I can't really talk about that yet because I'm still learning about it, and I'm learning as I go. So with that, go check out the Amazon skill for the House of EdTech. Let me know what you think, and that's my EdTech thought. And now it's time for this episode's House of EdTech recommendation, and I think it might be time to replace Voxer. In the Virtual Team Dynamics course that I teach at Rutgers University, one of the groups for their final presentation shared an entire presentation and research on communication and collaboration apps for virtual teams. One of the apps that they researched and learned about is called Telegram, Telegram, which can be found at telegram.org. And of course, there will be a link to this in the show notes over at chrisnesi.com/108. Now, what is Telegram? Telegram is a cloud-based mobile and desktop messaging app with a focus on security and speed. Who is Telegram for? Telegram is for everyone who wants fast and reliable messaging and calls. Telegram groups, and this is one of the features that I'm really excited about and interested in, Telegram groups can have up to 100,000 members with support for all the replies, mentions, use of hashtags within the chats, and obviously we know that hashtags help us maintain order and keep our communication organized, which would be especially valuable in a large community. Voxer doesn't offer hashtag support. Not to the best of my knowledge they do. I don't think they do. You can appoint admins with advanced tools to help with these larger communities, which will help them prosper and grow and be effective for all the members. Public groups can be joined by anyone and are powerful platforms for discussions and collecting feedback. So this could be used with a school community. This could certainly be employed in some of the groups that exist out there already. That there are, some limits to, how we use Voxer and the fact that Voxer is something you have to pay for. But before I get to money, let me continue on with some of my notes here. In case you're more into pictures, Telegram has animated GIF search. That's right. I say GIF. If you say otherwise, I will meet you at the bike rack. A state-of-the-art photo editor and what they call an open sticker platform. What else do they have? There is no need to worry about disk space on your device. So whether it's your iPhone or your Android phone or your tablet, with Telegram's cloud support and cache management options, Telegram can take up nearly zero space on your phone or device. Those looking for extra privacy should check out their advanced settings and their rather revolutionary policy on privacy. And if you want secrecy, they offer device-specific secret chats with, and I thought this was interesting, self-destructing messages, photos, and videos. So think the expiration of Snapchat messages applied to Voxer. And this is some of the features we're getting here in Telegram. You can also lock your app with an additional passcode. Now, what platforms is this available on? This is available on iOS, Android, Windows phones, as well as your Windows, Mac, and Linux computers. And you can access Telegram via your web browser. There is also a Chrome add-on for Telegram. Now, I'm going to be testing out Telegram, and I'm exploring it legitimately as a Voxer replacement. The problem? Right now, I'm the only one that I know who's on this platform. So it would be cool if you tried it with me. My username is at Chris Nesi, ChrisNesi. So you can search for me and I'll explain a little bit more about that in just a second. But here's why I'm considering the full-time switch. Number one, Telegram messages are heavily encrypted. And again, this self-destruct feature is pretty interesting that you could set it up and, the messages disappear. Not that I'm putting out anything that's worth self-destructing, but it's an interesting feature that stood out to me as somebody who is looking at all different sites and services and apps. Telegram lets you access your messages from multiple devices. Yes, Voxer does that, but I find that Voxer is pretty clunky between their web interface, my iPad mini, and my Android cell phone. Telegram is free. That's right. Everybody's favorite four-letter F word. Free forever, no ads, no subscription fee. Now, I take that with a grain of salt because if something is free, I know that I am the product. I'm willing to try this out and see what the experience is like. Telegram also has no limits on the size of your media and the size of the chats. To me, that sounds like, and again, I'm not chatting with anybody as I record this, but it sounds like there's no limit as to the history and the amount of chats and messages that can be sent, as also the size of photos and videos that you might include in these messages. and in these groups. And again, groups can be up to 100,000 members big. Boy, would I love to fill up a Telegram group with 100,000 listeners. Can you help me do that? It also says that you can send documents of any type. So there is a file sharing component to this. And of course, you can also, again, I took this from their site, you could destruct your messages with a timer. So a la Inspector Gadget, I can self-destruct a message that I sent to somebody. Once again, my username as I experiment with Telegram as a replacement for Voxer is at Chris Nesi. And I have a link that I can give you. It'll be in the show notes. But let me tell you right here, if you go get the app, you can go to me.Chris Nesi. And if you've got the app installed and you've got an account set up, it'll then allow you to send me a message. So let's try this out together. You're listening to this podcast. We talk, for 107 episodes that using technology isn't difficult. Let's give Telegram a try and see if it could be something that replaces Voxer and could be used in other ways that Voxer can't. And as I read this, I think there is a lot of potential here, genuinely, honestly, and truly. And it's the first thing I thought as this college class, this group in my college class was presenting it to me. So check out Telegram. I will be there, and I'm going to be waiting for somebody to try it out with. So that is this episode's EdTech recommendation. Now it's time for this episode's featured content, and I recently had a great conversation with my dad, John Nesi, who, again, as I mentioned, has previously appeared on episode 100 of the podcast. And in the conversation that I am about ready to play for you, we talk about his school's pending move in September of 2018 to a block schedule model. And we also mix in some talk about Google Classroom and homework and a number of other related educational topics. Obviously, I love my father, and the feedback was really good from his last appearance. So why not bring him back and have another conversation? Because, hey, I love him. I love talking to him, and I value what he has to say. And I think a lot of you found value in it last time. And if you didn't hear that, this is not serialized content, so you can hear this and then go back to episode 100. The choice is, of course, yours. But without further ado, here is a recent conversation I had with my dad, John Nesi. And I'd like to welcome back to the podcast the one, the only, original Mr. Nesi. Hello, Father.
Hello, son. Thanks for inviting me out on a cold, rainy day.
Hey, it was very nice yesterday.
Was.
First, let me start by saying that I got a lot of positive feedback from your first appearance on the show back in December of 2017. And like all good TV shows and movies, you can't have too much of a good thing. So that's why I wanted to bring you back as soon as possible to make sure I can continue to capitalize on what people enjoy. And they enjoyed what you had to say.
Why, am I dying?
No, but you did just celebrate a birthday. So
okay.
So happy birthday.
Thank you. Yours is coming.
Yes, it is. End of April 27th. Please send me birthday love on the internet. I'd appreciate it. What's new, Pop? What's going on in education for you? You're currently coaching. You're back from spring break. You've got the end of the year coming up. What's going on?
Well, I guess the big thing is, as we get near the end of the year, in my school, in our region, Freehold Regional, we're getting ready for block scheduling that we've been preparing for the past 3 years. It's coming. It's going to be here sooner rather than later.
So why don't we make that what we talk about? We just talked about it a little bit before we hit record. So you were sharing some different aspects with me. I currently work in a block schedule model, and my school uses A days and B days. So we have 80-minute block periods. We have multiple lunches because I don't know if this is because of the way my building is, but we have almost 2,200 students in my school. So we still have, 3 lunch periods. So there's a lot of overlap and bells ringing throughout the day. but your school in your district has chosen a different model than the AB, and there's a number of them out there. So why don't you describe the model that you guys are going to be using again starting in September?
A and B isn't good enough for us. We go all the way A, B, C, D, E, F, G. 67-minute periods, almost as big as you. We're just under 2,000 students. We will have one mass lunch period every day. People will be eating in cafeteria, classrooms, hallways. Hot food will be served all over the place in carts and whatnot. It's going to probably look like Yankee Stadium. Told you can eat in your classroom with kids.
Eating lunch in the classrooms with kids.
Like I said, you can meet with your clubs. You can meet with your team. Teachers will still be given the proctor assignments to cover the lunch periods. So I haven't quite seen how that gets arranged where they then get a lunch period. Because the lunch, I believe, is only a 37-minute period, so it's 30 minutes shorter than the block. So I don't quite know how they fit that in. But it's above my pay grade.
Well, let me ask you this. In your career, and we talked a lot about that last time, the many years it has spanned, have you ever worked in a block schedule model in any of the schools you've worked in?
No school ever had the block. The closest I've come is teaching I've taught the original credit program, kids who are trying to advance to the next level in math. They take a class over the summer. So that, I guess you can consider that to be super block, because that would start in the summer 8 a.m. and run until 1:45 every day. So 4 hours and 45 minutes. So that's kind of a block schedule on steroids. Teach the whole class and the whole course in 26 days.
Yeah, that'll definitely be a lot of content in a little bit of actual time.
They say with the block, since you have the extra time every day, if you want to go into a topic in more depth, this gives you a lot of time, because teachers will say, I wanted to do more, but, the period was ending, and if only I had like 5 minutes or 15 more minutes, I could have gone in a little deeper. So now you have that amount of time, but teachers still have to be careful. You still have to cover your curriculum. We're only going to meet 5 out of every 7 days of the schedule. So it's not like you can go into more depth every day. There are days where, last year I taught this one topic in one period. Now I'll have to teach that in that period and start covering the next section, because you still have to cover everything. So by the end of the first marking period, I've got to be at this point. I got to be at this section in this chapter. And by the middle of the year, I got to be here. So you got to pick and choose where you take the extra time to have kids maybe do a little bit more research on Chromebooks or whatever they're using. And you just got to be careful and just make sure you see the end, you see the finish line.
Now, do you think in the math curriculum that block schedule do you think it has a greater benefit to teaching math, having the longer amount of time?
That might depend more on which class you're teaching. If it's basic algebra, there are certain things where you can make kids do, some discovery activities, or what's the new acronym? SEL, Student-Centered Learning. Everything in education has to have a little acronym now. So, yeah, you can give out worksheets, make them work in groups, and then make them discover, now I see what the rule is, and you didn't have to tell me what it is. It'll still remain to be seen if, a week later they remember what they discovered. But, you take it from there. Something like if you're teaching stat, there I think you can, delve more into the concepts of statistics, getting into it. But some of the basic meat and potato courses, a little discovery here and there. But it's still going to be, here's the material, and, let's get through it. I could have you working in groups and, questioning each other and putting work up on the board and having other groups look at what you're doing and going back and forth, a little banter between the kids. But still, you got to be able to push them and make sure they stay on task and, you're getting accomplished what you want to accomplish in a timely manner.
In the training you've gotten so far, have they been giving you training throughout this year in preparation for next year? Or is it something they're really starting to get into now with how they're preparing the staff to do this?
No, they started. This has been a 3-year process.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they went back on our faculty meetings, department meetings, PD days. There have been presentations done by skip team members where they'll present like different methodologies, like what you can do in your class. And we've sat together in these PDs where, it's not just math teachers sitting together. It might be sitting with a science teacher, a history teacher, an English teacher, and we've all gone through like, based on like maybe initial sheet given out to everybody where all these methods are described. An English teacher might say, I'd use this method in this manner, and the science teacher, I'll use this, and then some cases they're like, even in our regular 47-minute period, like, I've already tried this in my class, and, maybe if I had that extra 10 minutes, I could do this a little bit more and have students do a little bit more discovery. So like I said, we've been doing this for 3 years now.
Is there anything that you do or lessons you've done or units that you've taught that will lend themselves to having more time available, more face time with the kids in a given block now?
Over the years, I've always found that, when you want to have closure on something, usually that's where I've gotten caught short, where maybe I want to give them some kind of like exit ticket in that last 5 minutes. Here's a little problem. Show me what you've picked up in this class, and I'm collecting it, maybe like 3 points towards your grade, whatever it is. That's usually where I found over the years, like I've run short. I've never been able to really do that closure item to see, where they are and where they're going.
No, I mean, that makes sense. That's one of the things that I enjoy about my blocks are 80 minutes. So that allows me to, whether it's, some amount of lecture or getting the kids hands-on using technology or doing whatever the activity is, I always find that there could be anywhere from that 3 to, even 10 minutes to have them reflect or, again, get some closure, get that exit ticket, and then kind of get them off and, on their way when the bell rings. So I think that's a good use of time. Something that always comes up in the conversations that I see, on Twitter, and, you're not there, but that's okay. One of the things that a lot of people debate and talk about is, homework, how much homework, should there be homework? And there is a movement out there to not assign homework for any way, shape, or form. Is homework something that plays a role in your class, and what role does it play? And what are your thoughts on homework?
I'm a firm believer in homework. I mean, that just may be from, I'm the dinosaur. I'm from the old days, but I almost don't care how long the class is. There's got to be some kind of reinforcement, because in math, I mean, as you hit each concept, there are different levels of problems you could assign. There's the simple, the more complex, parentheses, fractions, clearing things, moving things from one side of the equal sign to the other. So, I mean, even in a block schedule, if I do 2 or 3 of them, you're still not able to see if each kid in the class did each problem and knew exactly what they were doing or what their mistakes were. So, I mean, I think I'll always feel they need to go home and, try a few more of those type problems. And then the biggest thing is like, okay, the next day to get the kid, if you had a problem doing something, write it on the board, show me, come in early. That's the only way I'm going to know if I don't want to wait for there to be a test to find out like, hey, you don't know how to do this kind of problem or handle a problem on this level. You could do the simple basic ones, but you can't do the more complex ones. They need to be able to do some minimal amount every night. And I think a teacher still has to take into consideration, like, mine is not the only course you're taking during the day. So, I don't want to give you an hour and a half of just my homework. I want to give you a few minutes. I want you to do some problems. Maybe it might take one kid 10 minutes. It might take another kid a half hour, but I don't think you want to go past that. But you got to give them something to do.
Do you think that now in this drop block model where there's going to be a longer gap between when you see these kids, that homework will play an even more pivotal role for you guys?
Well, yeah, it's already on everybody's mind that, okay, I see you today, I see you tomorrow, and then you skip a day. There's the student who's going to go home and do the homework that night and have it ready and just sit there and not look at it again until you're going to see them. Then there's the student who's going to wait till the night before. And we all know there's going to be the student that waits till the morning of. It's going to be interesting. I've learned one thing, expect the unexpected. Some kids will adapt to it, everything will be fine, and and then there'll be the other students where, it's still going to be a challenge. Will it be a bigger challenge now that you don't see them every day? Because some teachers have already said, all right, I see you today, I see you tomorrow. All right, then we don't meet in the block. Then you're absent. So now I don't see you for 2 days. I still taught. How are you making up and catching up and making sure you're where I am with the rest of the class? If we have another winter like we just had where you got snow days and you're out for 2 days and, the day we come back, now our block is going to be set. If it snows on B day, when you come back, everything doesn't move. It's going to be C day.
So any day there's not school, the next day you come back it's
already pre-planned.
It's pre-planned.
This is the letter it is. So if you get weather days off, if you get kids sick, or if you're sick, then you may not see a kid for 2-3 days. Then you throw the weekend in. As I told you, in the beginning of the year, we were already told on the Thursday of Labor Day weekend, we'll meet our one class, I think it's the third period block. We'll meet them that day, and then because of the Jewish holidays and the weekend, we're not going to see that class until a week later, and that'll be the second time we meet them. So it's good. I think in the whole month of September that there's only 14 school days. It's going to be interesting. There's going to be a big learning curve for students. There's going to be a big learning curve for teachers. There might be a little bit of confusion floating around.
Now, the other thing, and I just thought of this when you're talking about like missed days throughout the year, absences and whatnot. Do they still have midterms and finals? And how have they talked about how this will factor in and taking time to do all that kind of thing?
No, we don't do midterms anymore. We do what are called TCAs.
What's that acronym?
Oh, you mean everybody doesn't know that one? Oh, God, what does it mean? You keep using the acronym and then you forget what it meant. Thorough common assessment?
How often are they given?
Basically, in the first half of the year, you give 2 TCAs. Like you give one in October, and then you give the next one, just before the winter break in December or right away when you come back in January. Both of those are were given in a regular period, and the 2 of them together were made up your midterm grade. So each one was 50% of your midterm. So no more midterm exam, just these 2 regular TCAs that made up your midterm. Then in the second half of the year, you gave another TCA, and then we actually do give a final, where it's more like a final. With this is 90 minutes. It's bigger than a regular period. That'll be the same, but again, now in block scheduling, as all the teachers know, you're not going to give a test now that's going to take 67 minutes. They still emphasize, give your regular test that you've been giving. That is what would have been a regular period, 47 minutes, where now either you can do a little bit more review for 20 minutes and then give the test, or give the test and then in the last 20 minutes, start your next lesson.
I think that makes sense. They want you to go, bell to bell, so have that meaningful face-to-face time.
Yeah, there's no reason to start every teacher in the land now. Oh, I got a 47-minute period test, and now I'll throw 7 more questions on it and make it go the whole. Well, first of all, teachers don't want to grade more. It just makes sense, stay with the test. One of the things that came up, some of the teachers were asking, well, gee, in the block, if it rotates, if I have 2 sections of the same thing, let's say I want to test and it's B day. I meet my first class, do I give them a test, but the other class doesn't meet on B day? Do I wait and give them the same test the next day? But the kids who took it the first day are going to tell the kids on the other one. So now I got to make up a whole second test. So I just looked at them right away. It just popped in my head. I said, no, you still give one test, but I would wait until I meet both classes and give the test that day. So if I'm meeting class A today, but I don't meet class B today, I'll move to the next presentation with that first class. Then the second day, when I meet the two of them, I'll give the test to the two of them. By the end of the 7-day rotation, both classes will have caught up to each other. So I was like, why would you want to make two tests, and why would you want to be worried about it? Just give it on the same day that you meet both classes. If you got to move ahead with one class the day before, move ahead with them. And everybody just kind of looked at me and went, oh, that's a good idea. I'm glad I thought of it.
Well, my question for that would be, how often, let's say in that example, how often in the 7-day period do you have both classes on the same day?
I haven't looked at it specifically, but I'm thinking I miss one, I have one. That's got to be 4 days. I think I only have them 3 days.
So in the 7 days, 3 of those days you'll have those classes on the same day.
Yeah, I haven't looked at it specifically, but I would think it's got to, that's the worst case scenario.
Because wouldn't there be concern, okay, I'm going to start to move ahead with one class, and now have I filled their mind with something that, and I'm just thinking in terms of teaching math.
Nah, if they know, I know what you're going to say. Okay, I moved on to something else. They're going to forget what their test is on and screw up the test. No, I'm an excellent teacher. They'll remember forever.
The reason I brought up homework and stuff is, and even assessment. I mean, in my own classes this year, I'm not giving homework, but that's more based on, knowing my students and not having equal access to, internet and things like that. So in my 80-minute block, I'm keeping everything in class. And my motto has been, all right, if we don't finish it today, we can move it into the next time that I see you, which for me is I see you every other day. So it's worked out kind of nicely. But I have found that, I'll plan kind of like a month at a time, where I will, and I don't know if you'll be able to do this with the 7-day rotation, but I'm able to sit down and basically each of the units that I'm teaching, contain them to a month. And then I'll determine, all right, am I seeing the class 7 times, 8 times? As I sit here preparing for, May, I know in May I see them 11 times. It's interesting to try and plan, 1, to plan ahead, and then 2, plan for, I see them, I don't see them, etc.
We kind of look at it that way. I mean, in our course curriculums, it's broken down like, unit 1, unit 2, and, what's involved in unit 1, what chapter or what sections. It is broken out where, okay, this should take you 2 weeks. Maybe this is a week and a half, and this topic is 3 weeks and whatnot, where it'll add up to the 40 weeks and whatnot. So you still have to maintain that. It's just that, okay, now when I say it takes 3 weeks to do this concept, well, instead of being 3 weeks every day, well, now it's 3 weeks of, I'm meeting you 5 out of every 7 days. So by the 4-week mark of the school year, when you start off, where I used to do it by seeing you every day, now, well, I saw you 5 out of 7 days. So at the end of that 4-week period, I still want to be at that point. I think there's a chance for teachers to fall behind.
As I say, like what kind of, not feedback, but what is, I guess, the mindset or the attitude of some of your colleagues? I mean, are there people who are like excited about this? Or are there people who are like, I have no idea how I'm going to stay afloat? And again, just mentioning that you have some that might think they're going to fall behind and not be able to keep up and manage it.
I think everybody's attitude is, I'm going to this is what I got to do. I'm going to give it the old college try. But since the majority of the teachers have never been in a block situation, I think it's, there's a little bit of trepidation on their part. And, hopefully everybody is, I'll be where I have to be at that certain time of the year. As of right now, I mean, we can go in and see each other's lesson plans. So I can go in and check like, somebody else who teaches Algebra 1. I could go in and see like, oh, okay, I'm I'm in section 3 today, and they're starting it tomorrow. So, we're give or take, we're all in the same place. And it's just the case of, I guess, next year, as we have our department meetings or we're just talking to each other at any point, it's like, of course, we're always asking, where are you? When are you testing this? When are you doing that? And more or less, we're all within a day of each other. There might be issues when we hit the block, but again, we'll see. Like, you're ahead of me. Because even now, without the block, there was a certain point a couple of months ago where there were teachers who were 3-4 sections ahead of other teachers. Nobody panics. Oh, gee, you were 3 sections ahead of me. Now I'm 2 sections ahead of you. So it's just a case of, sometimes you might spend a little bit more time on something, and then I'll spend a little bit of time on something else. Or I present it in a way where maybe I get through it a little bit faster than you do. And cross your fingers. And again, you just got to get to that finish line.
You said that you have the ability to go in and see, other math teachers' lessons. So actually what that made me think of is the fact that I just found out just before my spring break that my school and my district were changing to OnCourse, which is what you still use.
That's what we use. We're getting off OnCourse.
Well, okay. Well, so I'm getting on it. I've used it from when I did, some long-term subbing in the district. So I was able to go to my principal and say, hey, I've used this before. And it happened to be the day he was getting ready to go to a training on it. So again, try to stay relevant. So what are you getting off of it and where are you going?
Where the problem was, if I understood it correctly, at one of our professional developments, OnCourse wasn't able to do in a nice presentation manner a teacher trying to do a 7-day block lesson plan.
Okay.
See, like now we use it where it's, Monday to Friday, and what we're moving to is we already use Genesis for our grade book. Supposedly Genesis has a tab that they can turn on. I haven't seen it yet, where it will accept, since it shows the teacher's schedule already in Genesis, it will more readily show the 7-day rotating block, that it'll automatically know that, the way the block is set up, you've got it, period 1, period 2, period 3, skip, go back to period 1. It'll automatically show all that. They're offering training on it between now and the end of the year. It's a little hard for spring coaches to get there, but eventually somebody will show me how to do it, and off we go. There was a possibility of doing it in Google Classroom, but then they told us that even though we hadn't seen the Genesis part yet, that Genesis was going to open up and be the way to go with it. So a lot of people's attitude was, even though I did see a presentation of Google where it did look nice, but it's like, if we're really not going to use that, I might as well just wait and get the Genesis training. Although, like I said, the Google Classroom one did look like it.
So will you still use Google Classroom next year?
Still use Google Classroom, but I won't be doing the lesson plans in it. Google Classroom.
That's going to be key for keeping in touch with the kids and getting them updates and stuff.
Yeah, because we will lose our, in OnCourse, you're able to tie in and have your own website tied into it. So when you put your assignments in OnCourse, when you say this is my homework in that section of it, that automatically goes to your website, and you create a tab there, and kids can just go to your website when they go home and there's my homework that I got to do tonight.
I think this will eliminate some of the double work that some teachers might have been doing. So if you don't have to, if it's not tied together like that, if you're posting assignments in your Google Classroom, that would automatically get posted to a calendar for the kids in that class. So really it's going to be important that...
I think people are waiting to see that. See, now it's like, I do my lesson plan and I put my homework in OnCourse. The homework is posted automatically. I don't have to do anything. So now
right, it shows up on your calendar.
So now I think people are waiting to see that. Okay, now if I'm putting my lesson plan into Genesis, And again, they may have said this, and it just like went in one ear and out the other while I was trying to listen. That homework, do I now have to go in again and maybe post it to the Google Classroom and send that out in a calendar? Or is there somewhere where this is going to be done automatically for me?
I think getting it into Classroom and posting assignments there, or just making announcements, and really anything that you could put a due date on, that's where you'd want to tell your kids, get the Google Classroom app, enable notifications, and then they're going to get notified when things are due, and they'll have deadlines, and they can go in and configure all that stuff. I will show you how to do that over the summer.
Yeah, I've noticed. I've done Google Classroom this year. I've sent out a lot of announcements. I've sent out assignments. I put, Word documents. I've sent them out. I put PDF files. Oh, excuse me. I said Word documents, Google Sheets. I've sent it out to them. One of the problems I've noticed is it's tied into the kids' school email address that they get. They automatically get a Gmail account.
Right.
But a lot of kids have their own, whatever, a Yahoo, they still have AOL and whatever. And a lot of the kids, it's like, I don't see that Gmail account, that they haven't linked it where anything that gets sent to their Gmail account automatically goes to the one that they're getting alerts with on their phone. So I'll have kids come in and say, I never saw the announcement you sent. Made you join Google Classroom, so, I will send you stuff. So why aren't you looking for it?
Right. That's where, if the kids aren't actively using those district emails, if they get the app, that'll all be, if they have the app, they'll get the notifications because they'll see them in the app. So that's one way you can sell it to kids. Like, you don't need to check your email, but hey, get this app. It's going to help you manage this new environment that is the 7-day here a class, there a class, everywhere class schedule.
Wait, now I got to ask you a question that may make some of my kids get in trouble. If I've got the app on my phone, now I send out something to them. Do they have to open the app, or do they get like an alert, like the little red, like there's a one there that there's something that came in on that app?
Yeah. Well, you can get the push notification where, like, on your lock screen on your phone, where you'll see the little bubble of, like, you get a text message.
They have to do something on their phone though to make that happen.
No, that's a setting within Google Classroom.
When they install the application, they have to do that.
No, that's how you going like on a computer. You can manage your notification settings, so they could turn off. Don't send it to my email. Only send it to the app, and then they'd get the little badge icon, the 1, the 2, the 3. So as they're getting announcements, or if there's any type of activity in Google Classroom, they can then open the app and see what the activity is, whether it's homework, announcements, due dates.
Okay, it only took 9 months. I think I screwed that up.
Summer's coming.
Okay.
You'll get the one-on-one House of EdTech training.
Okay, there we go. That means I got to feed them, everybody.
Hey, you barbecue quite the burger, especially when you do the stuffed ones. So anything else, Pop?
I had no idea what he wanted to talk about today, people. This is all ad lib. And he still didn't pay me anything.
It was nice to get your take on the block schedule. And, I don't know if I helped you work through anything, but definitely the more we talk about these things, the better insight we get on what we're going to do when we have to do it. So I'm looking forward to summer. I know that there's some things that I can help you with. And of course, there's going to be things that you help me with.
They don't know how much I actually have to help you.
Hey, I was just actually commenting. I was on another show and I was talking about you and how here at the age of, when this comes out, I'm not going to be 37 yet, but at some point I will be 37 by the end of the month, that whether it's you or mommy, even at the age of 36, 37, I can count on you to tell me things that I'm doing right, doing wrong, unsolicited or otherwise, that you guys are still playing an active role for me.
Yes, you never stop being a parent. Always give the unsolicited, unwanted advice. They never learn, people. They never learn. He's got 2 kids of his own. He still don't know anything.
And I'm sure sometimes you feel like you're parenting me and my children.
Sometimes.
All right, Dad. Thank you for making some time for me here on what day is today? Today is a Sunday, for coming by the House of EdTech podcast. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Good night, everybody.
Thank you again, Dad, for taking time to come here, have dinner, play with the kids, and spend a little time here in the studio recording a conversation for the podcast. Before we go, the last thing we have to do is meet this episode's House of EdTech VIP, and this episode's House of EdTech VIP is Mrs. Kira Skusa. Kira Skusa is my assistant superintendent for curriculum and instruction at New Brunswick Public Schools. In this role, she focuses on promoting a collaborative and professional environment to create successful school experiences for teachers and students, and she supervises, obviously, all district instructional programs. She holds a bachelor's degree from St. Joseph's University and a master's in educational leadership from Delaware Valley University. Kira is extremely dedicated to the development of students, and she is a strong advocate for best practices as well as data-driven instruction. Before taking on the role of assistant superintendent, Kira spent 20 years in the classroom and as an administrator. She has worked at multiple grade levels and in a variety of educational settings. She previously served as a director of curriculum and instruction, a special education and basic skills teacher, and she worked as a gifted and talented program coordinator. She's got a great energy and enthusiasm for education and life, as I've come to know her since she started in my district, and she is 1,000% worth adding to your PLN today, right now. Well, let's finish the episode, but add her to your PLN. She is on Twitter at Kira Skusa 26, and that is KEIRASCUSSA, the number 26. Congratulations, Kira. You are the House of EdTech VIP. Thanks again for checking out episode 108 of the House of EdTech podcast. It was a pleasure to talk to my dad, John Nesi. Again, he previously appeared on episode 100, and if you want to go back and get links to everything in this episode, go to chrisnesi.com/108, or send me a message by going to chrisnesi.com/feedback to share your thoughts on the information that was discussed in this episode. Remember to go check out Telegram. I'm here. I'm waiting. I just need to find some people to connect with and to try it out. The link to my Telegram profile is going to be in the show notes for this episode. Now, if you enjoy the House of EdTech podcast, hey, this is the 108th episode. If you haven't left feedback or shared the podcast yet, hey, help me out. First, tell somebody else about the podcast. If you share it on social media, use the hashtag House of EdTech, or let's do an on-the-spot Instagram type challenge. The podcast is on Instagram at House of EdTech. Tag the House of EdTech on Instagram, either a selfie of you listening to it, where you listen to it. I would love to see and connect with you guys on Instagram via the podcast. Also, many thanks to my awesome supporters, without whom this podcast is not possible at this point. So special thanks to Eric Kurtz from ControlAltAchieve.com, Dan Gallagher, Peggy George from Classroom 2.0 Live, Jen Giffen from the all-new Shooks and GIF, the podcast, which you could find at bit.ly/Shooks and GIF. Congratulations, Jen, on launching your podcast, which is coming to the Education Podcast Network. Also, special thanks to Mark Grindell, Jeff Herb from InstructionalTechTalk.com, and welcome to my newest awesome supporter, Mike Messner. Glad to have you a part of this program. JP Prezavento from JPPrez.com, Scott Titmus, fellow New Jersey educator and Flipgrid enthusiast, as well as Brent Warner from the EdTech.tv podcast. All you need to do to become an awesome supporter is go to chrisnesi.com/awesome, and you can support the podcast for as little as $2 per episode, but that's not required. The next episode of the podcast, episode 109, I'm going to talk to Michelle Shelton and Cade Summers from Oxford High School, and they also host the Across the Hall podcast. And we're going to talk about language arts and ed tech and geek out about podcasting. That's going to come out on May 6, 2018. Until next time, thank you for learning with me, and remember, using technology isn't difficult. Just give it a try. The House of EdTech is a proud member of Voice Ed Radio. Voice Ed Radio. Your voice is right here. For more great content, go to voiceed.ca. The House of EdTech is a proud member of the Education Podcast Network. The Education Podcast Network. Podcasts for educators, podcasts by educators. For more, go to edupodcastnetwork.com.